We begin in College Station. Texas A&M was on the wrong end of one of the biggest comebacks in college football history, as a 44-10 lead on UCLA turned into a 45-44 meltdown at the Rose Bowl. There are a lot of reasons for the Aggies' epic collapse. A running game that was so explosive in the first half, couldn't move the chains in the second. A pass rush that pounded Josh Rosen early, couldn't generate any pressure late. The back seven had half a dozen chances to end this game with an interception, but couldn't make a play on the ball. But this came down to A&M not being able to throw it in the passing game. Nick Starkel was only 6 of 13 through the air before leaving with an injury. And then Kellen Mond was just 3 of 17 in relief. Christian Kirk, one of the most incredible wide receivers in the country, was a complete non-factor. With Starkel sidelined, Mond looks to be the quarterback of the future for the Aggies. Unfortunately, Kevin Sumlin may not be the coach of the future. All right, let's take it to the house with a pick six. Speaking of quarterbacks, somehow it's gotten worse at Florida. Felipe Franks isn't the answer. He's just as likely to deliver a dime downfield as he is to miss his target entirely. Malik Zaire isn't the answer either. He's not a good enough passer to make defenses respect his arm, so they crowd the line of scrimmage and take away his legs. Franks will start again in week 2, but will we see Luke Del Rio? He might be the best of another bad bunch. It seems that Will Muschamp has indeed learned something from his first head coaching job with the Gators. His rebuilding project at South Carolina is way ahead of schedule, and he's doing it with offense, believe it or not. Jake Bentley has just the right amount of moxie for a field general. Deebo Samuel is one of the best playmakers in the SEC, both as a receiver and a return man. If the defense starts to come around, and that's Muschamp's specialty, the Gamecocks could be sneaky in the East. Don't tell me about Drew Lock's 521 yards passing, which set a Missouri record. Don't tell me about his 7 touchdown passes, which tied an SEC record. We've seen him feast on cupcakes before, and they don't get much tastier than Missouri State. Until he can be consistently effective against teams from this conference, then I'm not impressed. As for the defense, giving up 508 total yards and 43 points to the Bears is flat out embarrassing. Nothing has changed at Mizzou. If you cryogenically engineered a quarterback in a lab somewhere, the result would look a lot like Jacob Eason. But for whatever the reason, the Georgia offense simply doesn't click when he's at the controls. Jake Fromm has a fraction of the physical tools, but he looked to be the more natural passer in the spring game, and he immediately gave the Bulldogs a spark when he took over for an injured Eason against Appalachian State. Fromm may not be Lou Gehrig, but Eason could be Wally Pipp. I thought linebacker Zach Cunningham would be borderline irreplaceable, but the Vanderbilt defense was sensational in week 1. The Commodores only surrendered 166 yards through the air in a beatdown of Middle Tennessee. Keep in mind that the Blue Raiders had the number 8 passing offense in the country last season. Brent Stockstill, their quarterback, is coming off back-to-back years of 30 touchdown passes or more. Derek Mason continues to be one of the top defensive play callers in America. Jarrett Stidham's debut in an Auburn uniform went well, even if his numbers as a passer were relatively pedestrian. Tigers coach Gus Malzahn will always have a heavy emphasis on the running game, and Saturday against Georgia Southern was no different. It is worth noting that Stidham carried the ball 9 times himself and even scored a touchdown on the ground, but Malzahn would be wise to keep him out of harm's way as much as possible. 2016 went sideways right after Sean White injured his shoulder. And finally, make no mistake about it, for 30 minutes, Florida State was every bit as good as Alabama, both offensively and defensively. But the Crimson Tide took over on special teams, and it completely transformed the outcome in the second half. They blocked a field goal, they blocked a punt, they recovered a fumble on a kick return. To be fair, this was just as much of a Seminoles implosion as it was a Bama explosion. FSU made one mistake after another, but credit the Tide for capitalizing every single time. Additionally, they didn't make any critical errors. No interceptions, no fumbles. They survived 2 missed field goals and a shanked punt. Beating Alabama is difficult enough, but if Nick Saban's club is going to play clean football and not give a couple of freebies to the opponent, eventually all that talent is too much to overcome. On top of that, Saban does more than just assemble 4- and 5-star recruits. He outcoached Jimbo Fisher. His players were more prepared for every single snap, from opening kickoff to final gun. Thank you for watching, and for all SEC all the time, visit SaturdayDownSouth.com.